Atticus Everett, and I'm going to be talking about the cartography depicting the territory that eventually became Alaska, which was produced during the 17 and 1800s. This is for Project 1 of Architecture History 531 with Professor Zoe Cope at Arizona State University in the fall of 2024. Thank you. This map was published in Russia in 1800 as part of an atlas commissioned by the Russian Imperial Court. It was produced by Alexander Mikhailovich Wilbrecht, and the leading cartographer, geographer, and astronomer in Russia at the time. It was created as 45 engraved copper plates, from the 42nd of which this map was printed. In 1800, this map represented up-to-date surveys from both within Russian expeditions and from other countries. In 1800, the search for the Northwest Passage as a shipping route was underway, and Russia was trading with indigenous people on the coast of northwestern America, as well as attempting to disseminate their religion. The map of the far eastern Russia that Wilbrecht produced for the Russian Imperial Atlas was primarily a tool of the Imperium to redefine tax and legal jurisdictions across the empire. This task was complicated by the succession of Empress Catherine II, known as Catherine the Great, by her son Tsar Paul I, who strove to undo his mother's legacy even to the point of redistricting the empire, so that Wilbrecht's first atlas, published in 1792, was obsolete politically and had to be reworked for a new edition in 1800. However, in both maps, the depictions of northwestern America were based on a map that Wilbrecht had produced in 1787 that showed specifically the logged positions and survey findings of Russian exploratory expeditions, notably those of Vitus Bering, as well as the English captain James Cook. In the Atlas map, the difference in detail between the Russian mainland and Alaskan interior can perhaps be understood as relating to the map's purpose as an internal political document. However, in the more detailed oceanographic map, it seems clear that though there is national and international interest in the coastal conditions of the new territory, the interior is far less accessible by the colonists and possibly of less interest. Albrecht was not present on any of the voyages and produced his maps from survey data and notes by the navigators of the voyages. He also referenced the maps of Gerhard Müller, who was present on Bering's voyages as a historian and published this map in 1754. Even accounting for the earlier period of this document, the same quality of blankness and disinterest around the interior region is evident. This is in part because Mueller was charting new territory primarily from the sea, with little interaction with the mainland. Though Russian settlements had been founded on the shores of northwestern America, they seem to have been unwilling or unable to collect any data in the conditions of the interior, due to the difficulty of travel or perhaps out of deference to the Alutiiq and Yupik peoples along the coasts, who tended to act as merchants between the colonists and interiorly located groups such as the Athabascan people, who were not contacted by Western documenters until James Cook's voyage in 1776, searching for the Northwest Passage. The search for the passage was deeply important to the governments of Europe, and Cook was the latest in a long line of attempted voyages and land expeditions on both coasts of North America to find a passable shipping route that avoided circumnavigating Tierra del Fuego or the Cape of Good Hope. As such, Mueller's map was translated into numerous languages and served as a critical standard document in the ongoing search among the colonial powers to seek the passage. No translation or reproduction attempts to look into the Alaskan interior, though they leave the highly detailed contents of the interior eastern Russia intact and as dense as they were in the original. To me, the two continents facing off across the Bering Strait, one richly detailed to the point of decreasing meaning, and the other little more than a coastline bordering a blank expanse, speaks to the map maker's strong desire to explore the region and bring it within the boundaries of densely documented knowledge. Like a dry sponge laid on top of a wet one, the data seems to want to flow into the empty space. Yet, as we've seen, as colonial mapping of the region progressed, the interior remained at best secondary in value next to the prospect of the potential nautical shipping paths and coastal trading depots. The Mueller map was commissioned by the Russian Imperium in large part to respond to a map published using unauthorized data from the St. Petersburg Academy by Joseph Nicholas Delisle several years prior that made unsubstantiated claims about the existence of a large inland sea inside the Californian coast, and also critically that there was no passable waterway separating eastern Eurasia and North America. This endangered the theoretical existence of a maritime northwestern passage. Mueller's official map, published with the Tsar's approval, contributed to the consensus that the Bering Sea was passable and the Northwest Passage possible. The search for the passage continued through the 1800s, resulting in numerous disastrous and failed attempts to sail north through the Arctic Ocean. It was not until 1907 that Roald Amundsen first succeeded in the voyage, but by this time, hopes of using the passage as a dependable shipping route had been all but abandoned, and the completion of the Panama Canal 7 years later in 1914 made the concept functionally obsolete. Interestingly, in recent years, interest in the Northwest Passage as a shipping and military route has increased as melting sea ice as a result of ocean warming has made the route more viable. As such, the international community and indigenous peoples along the northern coast of North America have again begun to grapple with the issues of ownership and safety when traversing this region. It was during this third act of the Great Search for the Northwest Passage that the territory now known as Alaska was purchased from Russia by the United States. In keeping with the changing focus of exploration of the late Enlightenment era, away from purely commercial and towards the scientific, and also in a display of the new regime's authority, the United States showed an increased interest in an understanding of interior Alaska. In 1869, just 2 years after the Alaskan Purchase, George Davidson was guided into Chilkat territory by a tribal leader named Koyalux on just such an expedition. During this expedition, Koklux and the Chilkat people hosted Davidson and his party as they observed an eclipse from within their territory, located along the panhandle of modern-day Alaska. The two groups in exchange of notes on the eclipse, and Koklux drawing a detailed map of surrounding areas, complete with perspectival mountain ranges, trade connections to other indigenous peoples, and ecological information. Comprehensive Brecht map in 1800. The differences come down to the uses of the two maps. Wilbrecht being at its root and in its highest expression a tool of economic control and speculation, and Koklux, though produced for a colonial audience, illustrates an integrated knowledge of the lifestyles necessary to live on the land being described. Time with me contemplating the mapping of the Alaskan territory during the late Enlightenment. And thank you to Professor Zoe Cope for facilitating this discussion and course at Arizona State University. I hope you all have a good break. Goodbye.